Hey, what's up?
What's up, Matt? How you doing, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You got your coffee there?
Yes, sir. Of course. Any of my friends are watching, they'll probably make fun of me because I'm not much of a coffee guy. I'm more of a tea guy.
What
I hope that's okay.
what type of tea are you a big fan of?
I'm a green tea kind of guy.
Sugar, milk, or just straight?
Uh, 1 spoon of honey, and that's about it.
Oh, the honey. I like the honey. That's a good, and it's good for the throat,
Yes, exactly.
As a goalie, I assume you're screaming a lot, so that's, you know, something they
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
take
yeah,
care of.
definitely. Definitely.
All right, guys, welcome back to another Footy and Coffee Conversations. To get started, if you want to introduce yourself, what position you are, and what team you currently play for.
Yeah, so my name's Eric Klenofsky. I'm a goalkeeper for Toronto FC 2. Yeah, USL League One. That's me.
How is it right now? You guys are starting, it's July 18th.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like right now. July 18th, we'll be back. There's still some issues with us in terms of figuring out what the border looks like at the moment, especially with cases rising and us being the only League One team on the wrong side of the border at the moment. But no, everything is moving forward. We have to we're getting closer to being in like kind of a normal training kind of environment, but still precautions, which we're going to have to deal with for the rest of the year, most likely. Hopefully it doesn't go into next season at all. But yeah, for the rest of the year, we're probably going to have a significant amount of precautionary things, guidelines that we're going to have to follow along in order for the season to go forward.
Are the borders closed right now between Canada and the US?
So if I wanted to go back home to New Jersey, I could go, but I would have trouble getting back in. So Canadians can go to America, but the border is closed from American to Canadian.
Okay.
So that's like a little bit of an issue with us trying to travel in and out of the border. Right now, there's like a 14-day quarantine mandate. So every time we'd come back from a game, essentially we'd have to quarantine for 14 days and then start again. So that's obviously not realistic. So some things need to get worked out in order for us to start moving forward and actually be playing games. So it'll be
You
interesting to see how it all evolves.
you got to get like home base somewhere in the US then for your team and just play Toronto 2
Yeah,
out of South
yeah.
Dakota or something.
I was talking to a guy that you had on a few weeks ago, Cody Lorendi, about how is this going to work, and he was like, "Well, there's actually a USL team back in the day called Antigua Barracuda who like had their base out of Florida," and I was like, "Maybe we could just do the same thing in Rochester, just go on the other side of the border and live in Rochester for a few months."
They lived in like basically like an RV.
No, really? They
Just
lived in
move
an RV.
around. Yeah, just move
That's
around with that. Just show up at
that's
whatever field and.
I actually have a friend who plays in the MLS who bought like a big van and gutted it and turned it into like a little apartment and like travels around the country during the off season.
You get like five or six of those and
Yeah, we just
just get
500
going.
airport vans and TFC2 will live in those. That would be interesting, man.
Oh,
Jeez.
that would be incredible. All right,
Great
so
story.
so going back, let's go back to your youth career. When did you start playing goalie? What did youth soccer for you look like?
Yeah, so I started playing goalkeeper probably around like 8 years old. When I was 5, my dad signed me up for, recreational baseball, basketball, soccer, and then I got to 8 years old, and he's like, "All right, which one do you like the most? Let's go try out for one of the travel teams." And I'm like, now thinking back, it was like 8 years old. We kind of jumped the gun on that one, but he was ambitious, so good for him on that one. But yeah, I ended up trying out for the town soccer team where I grew up, and uh, the team was 2 years older than me, and the only position I was good enough at to be on the team was goalkeeper. So I started playing goalkeeper, and then I was just a goalkeeper for about a year or so. My dad was like, don't you want to try any other positions? And I was like, yeah, I didn't really think about it. I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest. And at the same time, one of my still best friends, Rainier Lopez, moved to the town, and he was also playing for two other teams. So there was a thing. I don't know if it still exists now, but it's called like double carded or triple carded. So that we had that in New Jersey where you could play for more than one team. So my friend and I played for two town teams that were a year up, where we both played like on the field. And then I played for the same age group team when I was like 9, 10-ish. That was like one of the best teams in the state, where I played goalkeeper. So that was kind of the case for, 10 to 13, where I was playing for like 2 or 3 different teams. And, there was no academy back then or anything like that. The closest thing that I had to development academy, whatever that is, at the moment was the USL Super Y League was starting. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Why? Yeah. So there was a time where I was playing for West Milford, Paramus Spartans, NASA United, and then also in the summer playing for TSF Academy's Super Y team. So it was a busy time. And then on top of that, from I want to say 10 to 12 years old, my dad played basketball in college and was sending me to basketball camp all throughout the summer at the same time. So that was very, very interesting, and probably helped my whole goalkeeping aspect in some regard.
So I got to ask, what did you do with all your free time?
Oh, my free time. I actually did a lot when I was young. I for those that know me closely, doing a lot is like normal for me. So at the same time that I was, playing for two or three different teams from 10 to 12, I was also a paper boy at the same time in my neighborhood. So I was like on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock and like Saturdays at 9:30, I think, in the morning, I was delivering newspapers throughout the neighborhood. I was doing so much stuff, but I still do that. I don't still deliver newspaper. But
I was like, oh, you still deliver some newspapers?
A lot of things. No. It was actually a nice little scheme I had going when I was like 10 to 12 years old, where I delivered newspaper all throughout the year to these houses. It was like 12 to 13 houses. And then I also shoveled their driveways at the same time and mowed their lawns. So it was like a whole little scheme at the same time. So to get to the point, I had a lot of free time on my hands. So I ended up playing for TSF Academy from U13 all the way up to the under 23s level. Played high school at DePaul Catholic, which 45 minutes to an hour from where I grew up. And then off to Monmouth University on the Jersey Shore, and then went from there.
How now, when you were looking at college, what was your goal for going to college? Was it just to play soccer in college? Were you thinking professional at that point? What was your thought process with that?
I had conversations as early as 10, 11 years old where I was like, I'm going to make this decision because I want to be a professional soccer player. Wow. And so I remember there was a team that, I could have gone to, and I was like 11 or 12, and I can remember having a conversation with my mom and dad and saying, no, we're not going to go to that team because this team is going to give me a better chance at being a professional. So I was thinking about soccer pretty heavily there. But at the same time, I feel very powerfully or very strongly about building yourself outside of the sport. So I wasn't going to just go to school for the sake of going to school. I wanted to study something that I was passionate about, but also, at 18, 17 years old, you don't really know what you're passionate about outside of your sport. So, I like writing, speaking, I like sports. So I was like, all right, I'll study journalism, communications. I want nothing to do with that now. I feel very strongly now that I want to go into coaching after I'm done. So that's maybe something we can get into further on. But my college decision was very strongly based on playing soccer, for sure. And I had a whole whirlwind recruiting process that is just, it's a very interesting story if you want to get into it.
Yeah, let's hear it. I love the recruiting process, because I think younger players always have this idea of like, oh, this one school, I'm going to send them film, and then I'll just know it's my dream school, and then it works out perfectly, and that's where I go. And
no,
it's usually not that way.
100% not that way. I had such and I put all of the responsibility of this happening on my shoulders. I was just incredibly naive as to what a college coach could do for me or couldn't do for me. And, you know, I was an All-American in high school. I was doing well to be recruited. So the story starts. I went to Dallas Cup. My parents, so in order for me to go to college, my brother went into the military. My sister has worked so hard to pay her way through school.
What branch of the military?
The Coast Guard. He was in the Coast Guard. Now he's a police officer in Hillsborough County, Florida.
Very cool.
So I knew that if I was going to go to college, there are two ways it's going to be possible. Either I'm going to be covered in debt or I need a full ride, pretty much. So my parents were going through a divorce at the time. It was hard financially. So I actually, speaking to me doing a lot of stuff at one time, I was delivering pizza in high school, and I paid my way to go
Domino's?
No. TJ's Pizzeria. It wasn't a chain. You can't bring up Domino's to a guy from the New Jersey, New York area and expect us to not be offended. I paid my way to go to Dallas Cup. Took a lot of pride in that. We played FC Dallas in the first game. We lost 2-1, but I had a really good game. And the assistant coach for Southern Methodist University was there. And it was one of those tournaments where, you know, not too many of our parents came, and Uber or Lyft didn't exist back then. And even if it did, I had like a BlackBerry with no internet at the time. So that wasn't going to work. But I got an email from Kevin Hudson, who's now the head coach at SMU. And he's like, hey, we're at your game. We're interested. Do you want to come take a visit at SMU? And I'm like, I would love to. How do I get there? Because, you know, I don't know. And he's just like, we can't.
MapQuest.
Yeah, MapQuest. That's a great shout. That's a great shout. No, he's like, we can't legally provide you a ride. And SMU happened to be like 1.5 miles down the highway from the hotel that I was staying at. So one of my teammates and I walked down the highway to SMU for my first college visit, which was at SMU.
Oh my
and this is like spring of my junior year. So fast forward, I end up committing to SMU. I had a decent scholarship package. Wasn't great, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to earn more scholarship money and I'll figure it out and I'll go from there. So fast forward, they come and watch me play at the All-American game in Alabama in December of my senior year. Did okay, didn't do great. And I get something that a lot of people have heard of. It's called senioritis, academically. And I was just like, this is what I say. I was a little naive in terms of, you know, what a college coach could do for me. And my grades were okay. You know, they weren't great. They weren't terrible. Signing day comes along, and it's the day before signing day, and coach reaches out and goes, hey, Eric, we'd love to have you, but you didn't get into school. We're going to have to give your scholarship to somebody else. And this is spring of my senior year now. This is April of my senior year.
Oh, wow.
I was the only All-American for boys soccer in the history of my school at the time. So it was going to be this huge thing. And then like 6-7 o'clock at night, I get a call from the coach and goes, yeah, it's not happening, buddy. And I'm just like, whole world's crashing down. Crashing down. What do I do? What do I do? And the first thing I thought of was like, oh my God, my parents are going to be pissed. My parents are going to be pissed, man. So I bit that bullet. Obviously, I had a hard conversation with my mom and dad. And then, you know, I had a decision to make. I could either feel sorry for myself, or, you know, pick myself up and try to figure it out. Thankfully, like I said, I was decently recruited at the time. So once I became available, you know, the following day at school was one of the most embarrassing days at school I've ever had.
I can't imagine.
But at the same time, now kind of the mid-major D1 schools that were in the area that still had a need for a goalkeeper were like, all right, great, let's get on this. So I actually had a note from my guidance counselor that said, if Eric gets a call from a college coach in class, he can pick up the phone and walk down to the office and like take the phone call. And for the rest of that day, all Monday, it was like every 15 minutes, I was like, yep, you're on with Eric. How's it going? In like the middle of like history class.
Which I'm sure is going to help you then do better in the classes grades.
It was such a mess. It was such a mess. And then I ended up, I skipped school the next 2 days because I was going on visits. So on that Tuesday, I took a visit to Monmouth University where I ended up going. That Wednesday, I took a visit to Iona University or Iona College. I'm not sure. Apologies, Iona. And then Thursday, I was supposed to visit Binghamton University, but I had played a game there for a Region 1 League game the year before, and I felt very strongly about the situation at Monmouth, so I ended up not going on the visit to Binghamton. Coach wasn't too thrilled about that. So I ended up committing to Monmouth, and, at SMU, I would have had to sit for at least 2 years. And what ends up happening is I'm in a better financial situation at Monmouth, and I start about halfway. I end up being the starter halfway through my freshman season and then start for the rest of my college career.
See, this is kind of not what we want to do to the kids, to be like, hey, do bad in class and now look, good things happen.
No, 100% do not do this. But at the same time,
I got more money and I started playing quicker.
Yeah.
But that freshman year, I think, was your guys' goals against average when you started those games you played, it was like .22. Unreal.
I think it's like second all time for the history of the NCAA at the moment.
When I saw that, I was like, how in the world? That's so
honestly,
few goals.
It was like, there were a plethora of reasons why we didn't do all that well non-conference. What I had going for me was, and you touched on this before, I talk through everything and over-communicate and over-organize and try to put out fires as much as I can. And the goalkeeper that was ahead of me, that was a junior, was kind of a little bit more athletic than me, a little bit more experienced, but a lot quieter. And, long story short, I was basically picking grass because the defenders I had in front of me I had two juniors that were fantastic at center back. And thinking back, in retrospect, that back line, my freshman, sophomore year, absurd. We had two pros in it. The right-sided center back, Yaya, was a Ghanaian national team player. And then we had the left-sided center back, Matt Jeffrey, was in residency with the U18 national team. And then both outside backs went pro.
Jeez.
Yeah, so my freshman and sophomore year, it's my name, but it's that back line. A goals against average, I would say, is more indicative of like a very good team than just
absolutely.
like an effective goalkeeper,
Yeah, that's more maybe save percentage.
Yeah.
Which was also very high. So don't take that away from you.
Pass backs. I'm trying to be humble.
No, but that's the reality of it. Like with the goalkeeper, with defenders, like even if you're really good, you still need good players around you to have good stats. A striker, you can maybe, still get 10, 12 goals a season just by being really good. Obviously, when you get to like that 15 to 17, you have to have good players around you. But you can get a dozen goals from just being a talented striker. You need other players around you in those defensive positions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team sport, right? At the end of the day, it's a team sport. So my freshman and sophomore year were fantastic, but those stats, like I said, shout out to all my defenders out there.
Yeah, a second sophomore year was like kind of bad with like .48 goals against, so like kind of slacking.
It's also pretty indicative of the style of play that we played and kind of our emphasis as a team was to be very strong defensively and kind of hit them on the counter, try to control the game when we could, but we were much more of a team that was going to be solid, be really good with how we defended, and then take our chances when they came. And that's how we played. In my opinion, there's obviously a ceiling to that, but we were very effective in what we did, and we were all really bought in to making that work. And it worked for a period of time, for sure. So you need buy-in. That culture was huge during those teams for sure.
Yeah, I mean, personally, my philosophy partly with that as a coach is no matter what game that I've ever been a part of, you have a chance to score. So if you do your job defensively, you're always going to be able to have a chance to be in it.
Fair. That's a very good point.
But so you have two freshman, sophomore year. You're playing with real great guys. You're playing the whole sophomore year. You guys are getting a lot of accolades. At that point, is professional soccer not just, oh, this is a dream I've had for a while? Does it start to be like, hey, this is maybe a reality that can come true?
Yeah, so obviously, like I said earlier, it was always in my head. It was always, how was I going to do this? I want to do this. I'm going to make this happen. But it wasn't really reality yet, right? Like when I'm saying that at 11, 12, 13 years old, there's no context to that. There's no basis for me to say that. It's just something that I want, Mm-hmm. So when I describe it to younger players who want to be professionals, you can't, you don't wake up one day as a professional. You're not 15 years old and then boom, you're a pro. I had to take every task individually. So I get to let's get to a Division I college. Then once I get to a Division I college, let's get on the field. Then once I get on the field, let's excel. Let's have some longevity. And if you take it step by step, you get there eventually. So yeah, my freshman and sophomore year was fantastic. And I actually, I went and trained my sophomore year with two professional teams. I trained with Sporting Kansas City for about a week and a half with two of my other teammates that were on the back line in front of me. And then also trained with the New York Cosmos, who were in the NASL at that time, who had Raul at the time. So I started to get a little bit of a taste. I started to, have some real ideas about whether I could make this happen or not, and, where I kind of stacked up in relations. Because when I went into Sporting Kansas City sophomore year, I'm training with Tim Melia and John Kempen, two guys that have been in the league for an incredible amount of time and real pros, right? So I have a look right there of, this is where they are, this is where I am, what do I need to improve, how do I get there? And then that kind of evolves because, I'm playing PDL at the time with Ocean City Nor'easters, and then I jumped to Red Bull under 23s, and then it just kind of kept moving forward, and I have to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff at Monmouth for pushing me in the direction of some of those opportunities. And I've said this a million times. I don't think, maybe I do become a pro if I don't go to Monmouth. I think by going to Monmouth, it became so much easier for me to become a pro. The network was there. There were guys that had been in the league that were from Monmouth. It was do my job, be a good person, work hard, and my opportunities were going to come. And they came with, Red Bull under 23s. And then, the momentum from freshman, sophomore, junior year, I kind of hit a little bit of a snag. I shattered my thumb the first game of my senior year, which kind of slowed me down.
Brutal.
But yeah, it evolved straight into, 7+ combine invites to little MLS invite only combines around the country. And then I also got a call from Everton my senior year, which was crazy. And then kind of just ran with it from there. And yeah.
Yeah, with those 4 years specifically in university, I think it's interesting with a goalie, just because I think goalies are so unique of players because of their relationship with their goalie coach. Like, it's a whole different world than field players. And at a lot of universities in the U.S., it can be kind of suspect of what the goalkeeping coaching is like and all. Like, some are really good and some are like, go kick the ball into the net and we'll call you when we're ready for you.
Yes.
Did you find your biggest growth and development, was it during the university time or in the summer months, or a mixture of both for you?
Definitely a mixture of both. I also need to shout out David Acuna Camacho just got on the call, and David was my right back for those teams at Monmouth.
Okay, shout out.
Had to say hi there. But definitely a combination of both. I think the time I spent at Ocean City and with the Red Bulls, and then the teams I trained with throughout the summer were very influential to, you know, me moving forward as a player. But like you said, and this is one of the reasons why I say, you know, if I don't go to Monmouth, I don't know if I go pro, because Alex Blackburn, my goalkeeper coach, made the difference, made such a difference for me. You know, YouTube, the information sharing was not as huge when I was in high school. You know, for me to, you know, learn about the position as a youth soccer player was a lot more difficult. So all that to be said, you know, I was 18 years old and diving backwards with no idea that I was doing anything wrong. And I'm like, I got to preseason my freshman year, and Blackburn's like, you know, you should be diving forward. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. What do you think?
I've been doing this for a while. I'm pretty sure it works.
For a while. I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah. No, my goalkeeper coach, Blackburn, and you know, he's the first assistant for John Parks now at Greenville Triumph. So, you know, the proof is in the pudding there. And Monmouth has done an incredible job to develop goalkeepers. You know, Blackburn's obviously, he was the goalkeeper before me. He's a professional goalkeeper coach. The goalkeeper before him is Brian Meredith, who won an MLS Cup with Seattle Sounders. The goalkeeper after me, Bobby Edwards, just signed with FC Cincinnati. So they are doing something right.
They're having some success with it.
Yeah, decent amount of success. So I would say, you know, 100% a combination of both. The environments that I was in outside of Monmouth were integral to me becoming a pro, but also, you know, obviously I spent the majority of my time at Monmouth, and working with Blackburn, working with the rest of our coaching staff, very integrated in our sessions. And Blackburn was, you know, a young, eager coach that wanted to get better, and I was a young, eager goalkeeper that wanted to get better. So, you know, we made some mistakes along the way, and it's funny, we actually every now and again we'll get on a Zoom call or a call in general, and, you know, because we play each other throughout the season, and we're like, wow, I can't believe we were doing that. We were so wrong. Like, what are we doing? And it's funny to have that kind of, you know, that discussion, just thinking retrospectively.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you do well in university, you're getting combines, that type of thing. You're training with Everton. Talk me through then the process of becoming a professional.
So that kind of, you know, that window from my college season ends to getting drafted was...
Now, wait, were you graduated in December?
I was not. But the idea, and this is a theme in my life, you know, I'm always doing a lot. So the idea was, I'm going to graduate early and I'm going to go pro. So, David, who's right paying with Lukaku and Ross Barkley. So I have a Ross Barkley story that maybe we could get to later. But yeah, David was in England at the same time with me because he was studying at the University of Nottingham, getting his master's. But that window was a whirlwind, like I said. You know, I had a good amount of combine invites. I ended up going to the Toronto FC Combine. So, yeah, I ended up here. I ended up going to the Toronto FC Combine. Straight from there, that's like the first week. So, academically, another mess. Another mess because I had combines the entire month of December. So this took so much schmoozing of my professors to be like, guys, I'm going to be gone for like the last 2-3 weeks of the semester. Can I take my finals like early? And luckily, I had a decent relationship with most of my professors, so I was able to figure that out. But in terms of not being graduated, I had 4 credits left. I only had 4. So I ended up doing an internship in the communications department with DC United while I was a rookie at DC. And then I also did an independent study at the same time and ended up graduating about a year later. But it was always something that I was going to finish. So that December, I go Toronto FC Combine. From Toronto, I fly back to New Jersey for a day or two. Then I fly out to Vegas for the Seattle Sounders, Columbus Crew, Orlando City Combine. I'm there for like 3 or 4 days. I come back, and then I fly straight to Liverpool. My trial with Everton was December 15th, provisionally, to the 22nd.
Jeez.
And they come back, Everton does, a few days after I get there, and they call my agent, and they're like, we want to keep him longer. We don't know how much longer we want to keep him, but we're going to keep him indefinitely. And I was like, this is crazy. And I tell this story, but, you know, when I told my mom and my parents that, you know, my dad played basketball in college, and the rest of my family is not incredibly into sports, really, my immediate family at least. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Everton. This is going to be insane. And they're like, what? What is Everton? I don't know. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't even want to talk to you guys. So, yeah, so they come back probably like the 18th or 19th. They're like, yeah, we're going to keep him. We're going to keep him indefinitely for the time being. And I'm like, that's fantastic. So I'm training with the Everton under-23s for the most part. And then Liverpool plays Everton on like Boxing Day or the day before Christmas, something like that. And Stecklenburg gets hurt in the game. So they need a third goalie in training for the next day. And so I'm walking out, and it's like, yeah, so David, I'm getting to that part. So I get called into first team training for a day, and I'm walking out to training, and we're doing this exercise. Obviously, it's the day after a game, so it's not like a really heavy exercise, or a heavy training session. But the guys that didn't play need to get, you know, some playing in. So we're doing small-sided with, you know, I think my team was like Delfeu, Jagielka, and Kevin Morales or something. I'm just like, who am I right now?
No disrespect to your college teammates, but it's a different level.
It's a different level for sure. But before we were playing small-sided, we did an exercise that we actually we do at Monmouth pretty often. Everybody's around the center circle, and there's 3 people in the middle. And you're basically just playing keep away. It's a start. So I got Ross Barkley on my right. I got Lukaku on my left. And I get a ball from the right side. I don't know who played me the ball, but it's like, I think Jagielka's in the middle, Aaron Lennon's in the middle, and maybe like Seamus Coleman. And I get a ball from my right, and I one time the pass, and I split the gap, and it makes it through to the other side. And Ross Barkley's like, good job, lad. And I was just like, thanks, man. Appreciate it. And I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm going to go home. I'll see you guys. But yeah, so things continue. It's all going well. And we had an off day. We had an off day, and David and I, so who's on the call right now, we're walking downtown between Everton and Anfield. So we're hanging out, and I get a call from my agent, and he's like, Eric, you did it. They want to sign you. And David just starts punching me. He's like, what's going on? What is he saying? Like, what? What? And we're like in the middle of the road in like Liverpool right now. And, you know, both of us are just mind blown that this is happening right now. So fast forward, obviously I don't end up signing for Everton. It's pretty hard to get a worker's permit in a country the size of England without having played for the national team. And I stay at Everton. This kind of all fizzles out or comes to light around January 3rd, January 4th. And the MLS Combine is January 5th. So I find out that I'm not going to be able to sign for Everton. It was going to be, a very small under-23s contract. I was going to be like the 3 for the under-23s, but I could care less.
Yeah, still incredible.
It was like, I don't care. Sign me. I'll be the happiest guy in the world. It was going to be like a 6-month contract, but it was, deflating, yes, when I found out that I wasn't going to be able to sign. But it all comes about at a very interesting time, right? Because I'm in Liverpool, and the MLS Combine is in Manhattan Beach, California, like in 48 hours. So I need to find a flight, and I wasn't expecting to be going, in general. So I didn't have a flight, and the MLS only covers flights domestically. So I needed to find a flight, and thank God my mom paid for that flight just like on a whim, and it was like, I think it was like $1,200 or something. So the only flight I could find was from Manchester to Lisbon and Lisbon to Philadelphia. The only catch was there was a 19-hour layover in Lisbon. So from the 3rd to the 4th, I was sleeping in like an airport restaurant overnight for 19 hours.
Oh my goodness.
And then flew to Philadelphia from Lisbon. So I land the morning of the 4th, and Combine's on the 5th. Morning of the 4th in Philadelphia. Mom lived about an hour or so from the Philadelphia airport in New Jersey. She picks me up from Philadelphia. We drive back to North Jersey, where she was living at the time. I sleep for like 4 or 5 hours, drive back to the Philadelphia airport, and fly to Manhattan Beach. And the next day, I was playing in the Combine.
Well, I mean, that's just setting yourself up for success, with all that time zone, sleeping in a restaurant in Lisbon the day before.
Yeah, I did not have a good Combine. Thinking back, I probably should have missed the first couple of days, just purely from like a time change perspective.
Yeah.
Like from Liverpool to California, was that like an 8-hour difference? Something like that.
Yeah, it's one thing to go like New York or something, but to go all the way to Cali, that's
so it was like we were playing games at like 2 or 3 o'clock during the day, and it felt like 9, 10 o'clock at night to me. So I did not have a very good Combine, and it's sad because I was projected super high. So I'll give you for a lot of people, for those that have signed or have been around the Combine or signed a senior deal. So the guys who sign a senior deal before the MLS Combine or before the MLS draft starts, there's a little clause in it that if you get drafted in the top 15, you get like a $15,000 signing bonus, something like that. So I was projected to be like 11. I went 34 or 32 or something like that. And I remember having a discussion with one of my teammates at DC that got drafted ahead of me. And it was like, like a year on, and we were talking about this. And I was like, wait, you got drafted like 9. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, you signed your senior deal beforehand. He's like, yeah. And I was just like, you got that, didn't you? He's like, I got that. And I was like, come on, man.
But did you ping pause with Ross Barkley?
Yeah, no. Yeah, whatever it's worth to you. But yeah, a wild experience. And there's probably bits and pieces that I'm missing in there. Oh, there's a good part that you'll probably find. Being in Europe, I'd never been in a hotel room that you needed the key to be in the door for the light. And I was just living in darkness for like the first 2 days because I had no idea how to turn the lights on. So it was a great learning experience. Somehow I get myself into these situations, and just kind of take it in stride and learn from it and keep it moving.
I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah.
So you get drafted by DC United. Obviously, a goal that you had from a young age is now partly reached. Obviously, you still need to get that contract. What's it like then going into training with DC United?
I think I don't know if I was ready. Psychologically, I didn't know if I was ready. And I was, another thing that I talked to about with young kids, when you're a youth soccer player, whatever's going on in the outside, studying for a test, fight with your parents, whatever it is, soccer's kind of that escape for that hour and a half, whatever. Flip it on its head. Now you're a pro. Now, whether you can pay your bills, whether you are successful in a lot of ways in a lot of people's minds, is based on that hour and a half. And that came with a lot of stress for me because, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be successful. And in a lot of ways, I was not. But it was a very good learning experience. Again, so I get to DC and there's a lot of reasons I could go into as to why I wasn't successful in DC. I ended up tearing my meniscus twice in training throughout my rookie year. And it's just kind of an injury-riddled year, really, where it's, rehab, get back to training, sit on the bench. And I think I played one game. I made my debut at Richmond. Tore my meniscus and, came back, trained for a few months, backed up Travis, backed up Bill or Steve Clark at times, tore my meniscus again. And it was just kind of an up and down. And, I don't know how ready I was for that kind of, ebb and flow of a professional soccer career. And it's taken me a few years, I would say, to really feel like I'm really starting to get better and really starting to excel because I wouldn't say that the hardest part about professional soccer is going pro. I think it's excelling as a professional that is the most difficult. And I'm in a place now with TFC where I feel really confident and I feel like I'm in a very good culture of excellence with some really good coaches, and I feel like I'm moving forward. So DC was tough, but like I said, another learning experience that I wouldn't change.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously like every player that becomes a professional was the best where they were. And so translated across like their life story up until professional soccer, most likely they were starting and being a star wherever they went.
Yep.
And then now you have injuries, you're not starting. You start, the self-doubt comes very quickly because it's things that oftentimes until you get to professional soccer, a lot of players don't deal with. And so it's mentally, it's difficult, as well as you touched on, it's, now this is how you put food on your table. And so the level of seriousness of the guys is much different than half a college team that knows they're not going to go professionally and are just doing this as a fun thing, maybe to pay for part of college and have some good memories before they head out into the working world.
Well, something I talk about a lot is, we often intertwine our sport with our identity. And when you start to get punched in the face at a professional level, I go pro, I'm like, great. Now I'm Eric Klenofsky, the professional soccer player. Fantastic. How good am I going to get now that I'm just a professional? But then you get hit with an injury, then you're not playing, then you're out for a bit, and you're like, who is Eric Klenofsky? There's got to be more to me than professional soccer. So that was a really hard realization, and I needed to figure out who I was outside of the game. And I went to Israel, did a lot of learning over there, and there's a million stories we could talk about.
Yeah, how did you end up going there? Obviously, DC decides not to renew the contract, so it leaves you free agent. How then do you decide Israel's the play?
I know. I should write a book, honestly. I don't know what the book would be about. It would just be like maybe a sequel to a series of unfortunate events. But
just who is Eric? That's the name of the book.
So halfway through my rookie year, I get a call from a guy named Itamar Kainan, who's an Israeli agent who's based out of Texas. And he got my contact information from one of my teammates. And he reaches out and very quickly in the call, he goes, "Hey, Eric, how's it going? Are you Jewish?" And I was like, I mean, depends who you ask. My dad's Jewish. And he's like, "Oh, well, I think I might have an opportunity for you if you're interested." And he goes on to explain how there's a chance I could get an Israeli passport based on my Jewish blood. And we stay in contact. And, I'm a guy that tries to push the envelope, put myself into uncomfortable situations. However, conscious or subconsciously I'm doing so. But I was like, I'm young. I played one game my rookie year. I want to do this. I want to go. I want to, go play games. I don't care if it's lower division. I'm going to do it. I know it's going to be tough. We'll go figure it out. And I'm going to make the best of it and do my best to adapt. So I come back from the knee injury my second year, and turns out there was a club in Israel that was interested, and so I wasn't going to be able to sign or start the season until July of my second year, because that's just when the European season starts, obviously. And I was rehabbing because I had a meniscal repair towards the end of the year, so I was rehabbing for about 5-6 months. So I come back late April, early May. I signed like a 1-month contract with Richmond Kickers, who I was close with the goalkeeper coach there. I still am. And he was like, hey, we need one. You're getting ready for Israel. Maybe we can work together, and you can buy us some time and you can get ready. And I'm like, yeah, for sure, that works. So I signed a 1-month contract with the Richmond Kickers with the idea to hop over to Israel come July 1st. That happens, and I get over, sort the passport out, and things started off pretty well. We ended up going to like the finals of the League Cup. We actually it's like a preseason tournament. It's called the Toto Cup. We ended up going to the finals. Started really well. We ended up winning like 50,000 shekels for the club, which is like $20,000 US, something like that. The players don't get $1 of that, which I'm still kind of salty about.
Of course not.
So, but from there, we really struggled in season. And I was on one of a recently promoted club from 3rd division into the 2nd division. And, we struggled for the first half of the season. And I did okay. I didn't do great. But TFC was monitoring me. And there were so many ups and downs within my trip over or my time over in Israel. So TFC reaches out and they're like, hey, we've been watching. Are you interested in making a move in January? And like a week before, my goalkeeper coach had called me at like 9:00 at night, and we were like an hour and a half north of like where the Gaza Strip was. So he's like, hey, keep your window open because Gaza might be sending rockets tonight, and you need to be able to hear the alarm, the alarm for you to go down to your bomb shelter. And I was just like, I don't think my apartment building has a bomb shelter. So like that's going on. Like a few days earlier that happens, and then John Conway texts me from Toronto FC. He's like, hey, you interested in making a move? And like for negotiation's sake, I was just like, I don't know, games, money, all these kinds of things. And I was packing my bag while I was on the phone. So I ended up transferring to TFC, and it's been a great move. And so that's a condensed version of my time in Israel.
Wild. So you've been Everton to DC to Richmond to Israel and now Canada. Yes.
Very traveled.
Very different cultures. Yeah, why not? Come on, Finland's a chill place.
Yeah, I watched what was it, your Day in the Life blog on YouTube, and I was like, that seems like a really decent life. Like the grocery store is like right across the street.
Dude, I'll say it's a very like simple life in some aspects. That's really nice.
So my grocery store in Israel, I lived in it was a small city in Israel called Rehovot, like 30-40 minutes south of Tel Aviv. But my grocery store was like a mile or so from my apartment, and I didn't have a car. And everybody drives like those little electric bikes. Mm-hmm. So I had like my backpack, I had my electric bike, just 6'6" white guy going down the street in Israel, just stacked with food on his back. It was.
You got the eggs in one hand, trying not to.
Yeah, yes, it was. I had a lot of. When I saw that the grocery store was across the street, I was like, he's doing great.
I used to not live so close, and that was terrible. Yeah, to try to figure it out.
It's tough, and it's something you don't really think about. What's up, Cody? How you doing, bro?
Yeah, speaking of Cody, he pops on.
What
a legend.
His ears were burning. But But yeah, it's something you don't really think about. It's something you don't really think about. But there's so much stuff, you know, culturally that was different that I had to adapt to. I don't smoke at all, and smoking cigarettes over there is so common. So like our athletic trainer would smoke cigarettes while we were on the field, and like he'd be standing like right next to the field, and I'd be catching volleys and smelling cigarettes, and I'm just like, hold on, I got a cough, coach. Let me. So it was like I said, I needed to adapt, and we touched on it a little bit before how that kind of shift from youth soccer to professional, like there's a lot of things you need to adapt to, and something I'm a huge proponent of is you know, if we have a guy that is particularly talented, like TFC Academy, for example, let's find him alone, like in a small place in Europe. Let's see what he's made of. You know what I mean? Because if he can't handle the stress and be able to adapt, it's going to be a lot harder for him to reach a higher level. You know what I mean?
100%. 100%.
So I think that's something that I really value. That being said, you know, Israel wasn't the most successful on field, but I felt like I grew a lot psychologically, you know?
Yeah, and I think too, like especially going to a different culture, like you as a person grow a lot because it's a different worldview you see and different experiences. Obviously, having your window open to hear the sirens for bombs, not something in Toronto that you usually have to deal with.
Yes,
So I think
exactly.
just like as a human being, those experiences are really good. I'm over in Finland in a town called Kristinestad, so it's very quiet here, more like maybe a small town in Canada would be.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know. This is a pretty big city, but you know, it changes your perspective. It makes you thankful. Like
mhm.
I coming from, so in Israel, every 2 or 3 days we ran out of water to shower with. I had like pictures of guys. You know, we didn't have ice for like 4 or 5 months during the season. Uh, it was like some absurd stuff, but you know, adversity makes you stronger. But TFC, the training ground, and I'm like gesturing that way because I can see it from my apartment building. Uh, but you know, it's an embarrassment of riches at TFC with what we have resource wise, and I just wish more people had that kind of perspective of like, oh my God, like what a blessing it is to have this, you know, because that's not the case everywhere. So
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Yeah, especially like in lower divisions in Europe, it's nothing like what people I think glamorize it sometimes as.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there is glamour there, and there's a lot
Yeah,
of pride. There's a lot of growth in it. But there's a lot of stuff you got to fight through and you got to grind through if you're going to be successful.
100%, 100%. What would you, obviously you've had different experiences, but hopefully you still have a lot of years in your career. Hopefully, you know, you're at the beginning of it more than the end. What
Yeah.
though, looking back to 15-year-old you about to catch that senioritis in school, but soccer specific, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give yourself?
You know, I think maybe my advice should be a little bit different, thinking back to what I went through growing up, but let go of perfectionism. I think I was so stressed. I was so stressed with like everything that I felt when it went wrong. I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. It's going wrong. This isn't great. Like, why is this happening? But I was so naive to the fact that we're all going to experience adversity, you know, and I wasn't prepared to experience that adversity. And luckily I had the mentality and the wherewithal to be like, all right. And I praise my parents a lot for that. I'm like, all right, you know, shit's hitting the fan. We have two reactions that we could possibly do. We can let it destroy you, or you can grow from it. And I just wish I was more prepared. Maybe not prepared, but you know, welcoming of adversity and not so hard on myself in terms of, you know, if something didn't go perfect or something wasn't exactly how I thought it should have been. You know, I think that stressed me out. You know, where you know, I was like, oh, I need to do this to get better. I need to do this to get better. What I needed to do to get better was go through adversity and grow from it and learn from it. And I felt like if I had that, just, you know, it's not going to be perfect. We're all going to experience obstacles. How do you respond to those obstacles? And that's what I would say to 15-year-old Eric Klenofsky. Let go of perfectionism, welcome adversity.
I like it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, as an older player now, you realize, you're going to go through adversity, and it's more of how you respond to it. And the unfortunate aspect of life and playing is those moments are what make you the player you are. So you need them to become successful, which is
100%,
an unfortunate thing when you want perfection.
Yes, but it's not possible. And those times of adversity really question your identity. If you know who you are and what you want out of life and what your why is, when you hit those road bumps and when you're really passionate about what you do, it's going to be so much easier for you to overcome them.
Absolutely. You touched on that you were possibly interested in coaching in the future. Are you interested in goalkeeper coaching or team coaching? What fancies you?
So I think in order to be an effective goalkeeper coach, you need to be a team coach first, because you need to understand the importance, especially in 2020, you need to understand how the goalkeeper relates to, building out attacking wise and defensively. So I'm super passionate about goalkeeper coaching, but I'm not naive to the fact that, in order to be an effective goalkeeper coach, you need to be a good team coach as well. So specialty goalkeeper coaching, but very much so passionate about the game in general. So when I was rehabbing from my second knee surgery, I was a volunteer assistant for Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey, which was a great experience for me. And I would say one of the points where I was like, before that, I did coaching casually, like, okay, maybe I can do this on the side with whatever I did, and with journalism on the side, whatever. But having that experience, I was working with a great Seth Roman, and that really opened my eyes to say, this is not something that maybe I'm going to do. This is what I want to do now, and this is a big part of me. And now, since that time period, I've put so much effort into, growing myself in the game and outside of the game. Helped me come to the game with a lot more clarity when I know that my whole life and identity isn't based on that hour and a half every day. Both. That's a long-winded answer to say both.
I like it. For you, goalkeeper specifically, in regards to a goalkeeper coach, for you as a player, what's the most important thing that goalkeeper coach has, whether that's, whatever that is, what's the number one thing that a goalkeeper coach to you has to have with you?
Compassion and respect of perspectives, I would say. So, the game is ever evolving, and, goalkeeper coaching is so different than team coaching, because this is, there's a personable relationship there. And it's one of the only positions that has, its own specific coach. So one of the biggest things is being adaptable as a coach. See you, David. Thanks for coming on, brother. You have to be adaptable as a coach, because I'm the goalkeeper that I'm training at TFC now, working with Alex Bono and Quentin Westberg and Caleb last year, and Kevin and Jan, all the goalkeepers. Actually, one of our goalkeepers from TFC2 now is over in Finland. But the goalkeeper coaches that I'm around, they understand that, I'm not the same goalkeeper as Quentin. I'm not, Alex Bono is not the same goalkeeper as Quentin Westberg. Quentin's not the same goalkeeper as me. And to understand that, what makes me tick and what's going to make me successful might not be the same thing. That is so important. The times where I felt I've grown the least as a goalkeeper and not been as successful are the times when I felt a goalkeeper coach is not adapting to me and I'm trying to adapt to them.
I don't know why it does that. I apologize. Instagram cuts it off at 1 hour, and
No, it's all good.
Don't they think I'll have something better to do than restart the Instagram?
100%. I had to change locations because my phone was dying. I hope that's okay.
Listen, I'm okay with it. We might get some complaints from people that we're really into the background, but so go. Sorry, we interrupted you. You were talking about your goalkeeper coaches and all, and different, you being different players than other goalkeepers.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest parts of being an effective goalkeeper coach is understanding that, you know, every goalkeeper that you deal with is going to process things differently. They're all going to have, you know, there's basic principles that you need to uphold, and you know, there's you know, things about the game that are going to remain the same, obviously, but we're all different, you know, and being adaptable to different people. One of the things that I really commend our goalkeeper coaches at TFC, John and Phil, is, you know, they put individual development plans together for all of us, you know, based on what we feel we need to get better, what they think we need to get better, and there's a plan, you know what I mean? And I think doing things like that, not leaving our growth up to randomness, but making it really specific to us, can make a huge difference. And I'm thankful for the guys over there that have you know, opened my eyes to that.
Absolutely. For you as a player, since, let's just say, from college, your senior year, to now as a professional, what's been your biggest growth as a goalie?
Thinking man's game, man. I think I've learned so much over the last few years. I think I'm going to use this word again. I've overused it probably, but I was relatively naive as a senior in college, thinking, you know, and Blackburn and I both, we talked about it. You know, there were times where we would ignore things that maybe we knew were wrong. And it's, you know, I don't know if anything is technically wrong, if it's effective, but that's a whole nother argument we'll get into. But there were things that we ignored at times that I would do because we were comparing me to the goalkeepers in my conference, or, you know, the goalkeepers in my conference were amazing. One of the guys that I competed with constantly was Matt Turner, who's now the starter for New England Revolution. So, but we would compare, you know, compare me to other goalkeepers that I was training with, maybe, or the goalkeepers that we were closest to, and we were winning. So we ignored some things about, like, maybe a big jump set, or like being too wide, or, you know, I was good at taking crosses for the level that I was at, but maybe if we actually were thinking a little bit more critically about how I went about it, I could have been more effective and continued to grow. But we were winning, right? So when you're winning, you kind of want to stay out of the way, but at the same time try and still make those corrections. But yeah, I think between the ears is probably where I've grown the most from senior, and that's why you see, you know, a guy like Buffon play for so long, because, you know, the goalkeepers that play until they're 35, 40 years old are not the guys that have been excelling because, you know, they're insanely athletic. Buffon is not some, from my perspective, some athletic genius here. I think, you know, he's smart about how he plays, the positions he takes up, how he goes about reading the game, you know, and that's why I say it's a thinking man's game, because, you know, as goalkeepers get older, it's a very thought-based position. Not to say that any other position isn't, but you can excel more if you're a thinker, I would say, in a lot of ways. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously there's some reaction saves that goalkeepers are just going to have because of that, but most saves you should make are usually based on putting yourself in the position you should be before the ball shot.
So I mean, that goes to, you know, making a really great reaction save. Maybe you give yourself a better chance if you've seen that save before, and you take up a different position, or a different type of set position, or you're a little deeper in your goal. There's so many variables. That's why I'm very hesitant to say, you know, I was doing something wrong, because, you know, effective is effective. But yeah, you know, there's so many ways we could take that, but yeah, I think goalkeepers definitely age if they're thinkers in a good way, you know.
100%. What to you is your favorite thing to do in goal? Is it coming out winning a cross in the air? Is it saving a penalty? Is it, you know, free kick save? What to you, what type of thing in goal gives you the the most joy?
There's so many things that I would say,
You can only choose one.
Yeah, I can only choose one. I would say the complexity of the position. I really enjoy breaking down the complexities of the position. That's pretty broad, I know. So I would say my favorite thing is leading. I think goalkeeping in general, naturally based on the position, is a leadership role. And that's something I really enjoy thinking about, how I need to interact with so-and-so to get them to work for me, or how I need to talk to another guy because he absorbs information differently. And I think just being in a leadership role in general is one of the things I enjoy the most.
I was hoping you were going to say just screaming at your center backs or something.
I said that in a politically correct kind of way.
Just yelling at them, step up, step up.
Yeah, expletive.
I think, because I played center back, and that was like the most frustrating thing is like you've been running like crazy. It's like 85th minute, goalie just sitting in his box yelling at you to step up.
Yeah, or like when you've been defending for the past 20 minutes and then he catches a cross, but now he's trying to think about this nice side volley he can hit, and you're just like, we've been defending for so long, don't hit that thing, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, but it's on.
Just hold it, just hold it.
Just hold the damn ball, please.
Oh, gosh. For you with penalties, and not to take any secrets or anything, do you try to read where they're going? Do you pick a side and go for it? What's your thought process on it?
There's some
try to sneak forward like as far as possible, guessing.
It's educated guessing for sure. So obviously there's a little bit of percentages stuff. I mean, if we have a scout that goes into it, some days you're not going to have a scout. So I would say it's a combination of playing percentages, but also there's a gut feeling kind of thing involved where, this guy doesn't seem comfortable closing his hips. This guy doesn't seem, or maybe he seems a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more creative. Maybe I'm going to wait a little bit longer. This guy, he's a lefty, and more often than not, he's going to go in a certain direction based on percentages. So, have that gut feeling, but also keep in mind that chances are he's going to go in this area, so it's kind of like, and that's one of the, it's a microcosm of the complexity that is goalkeeping, but there's such a mind game that goes on with penalty kicks that there's so many things that you can think about and directions you can take it in. So yeah, I would say at the end of the day, it's educated guessing. But yeah, can't give away too many secrets, I'd say.
Now, when I was in university, our assistant coach was really good at reading where a player was going to go. Yeah. So before he kicked it, he would literally just point one way or another, and the goalie would dive. And that year, I think we were 3 of 4 on saves. And that coach now is the assistant for San Diego Loyal. So apparently he had something going for him. But I remember, I was thinking, this is wild. You're just having him point which way to go.
Maybe I need to talk to that guy. No, I do okay with penalty kicks. I only faced one last season, and I saved it, but they finished the rebound, so basically not a save. When I was in Israel, so part of the complexities that happened in Israel, we had like 6 penalties in the first month. Like the first 10 games, there were like 6 pens. And I went the right way on like 4 of them, I think, and saved 2. So I was like 2 of 6. So, I mean, okay, nothing great. But yeah, maybe I need to talk to the San Diego Low guy.
I don't know if the magic's still there or not, but it was for that one season at least.
Maybe he took off some lucky gloves or something.
Now when you make a save, what is your reaction? Some goalies will go and get water, maybe grab a glove or like a towel. Some just like scream in the air. Some scream at their center back. Some like fist pump it. What's kind of your go-to move after a nice save?
Yeah. So, I mean, depends on the situation. Obviously, depends on the situation if I'm going to take my sweet time or not, if I've held the ball or not. but I like a real favorite of mine is the, nonsensical directionless screaming afterwards. Relatively similar to like a goal celebration. Like I said, it depends how important the save was, the time of the game, things like that. If it's a really big moment, similar to, Steve Clark, actually, he loves the celebration. I don't know if you know who Steve Clark is, goalkeeper for Portland Timbers, but
Yeah.
he loves the celebration, and I really adopted a little bit of that. So, I don't quite do the hands in the air jumping and stuff. But no, I have a nice nonsensical scream at times for sure. But also if there's like a really clear error that like somebody did something, then, I have to be a little bit more thoughtful about it and actually communicate something of worth. But yeah, it depends on the situation for sure.
I like it. Obviously, you were talking about you're a big communicator, big leader from the back. What was that like then in Israel with language barrier at all an issue?
Yes, 100%. I knew zero Hebrew when I went over to Israel. I would say it took me about maybe a month or two before I could communicate. Probably like 80 to 90% of the things I needed to communicate on the field. Left, right, forward, back, man on, time, all these kinds of things. There was a time where I could count up to like 200 in Hebrew. So
that was important for the game.
That was super important for the game. But no, the issue with me not speaking Hebrew and trying to speak quickly is there's a lot of there's a lot of chaz in the middle of words. And when I'm not accustomed to speaking the language, there was a guy on my team named Borchal, and it's in the middle of his name, so he's my left back. And I remember there was a time where I'm like trying to give him information, and I usually say a name after the information, and I had to say it really quick, and I got stuck on the cha. And like I was yelling, and I was like, and I was like, oh, I really hope no one heard that. But yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting for sure. But it was a nice challenge. It was difficult at times, but at the same time, I would say 30% of the team was probably fluent in English. Probably 50% knew some English, and then probably half the team didn't know any. But it was rare that a guy like didn't know any English, I'd say. So for the most part, I had, but at the same time, thinking about like how they're absorbing information, if I can say it in Hebrew, I can say it that much faster and give them maybe just a little bit less to think of, because, speaking from my perspective, you could say a Spanish word to me, but then I'm going to match it to an English word because I'm not thinking in Spanish. You know what I mean? So if I can give the information in Hebrew, then I save them a half-second thought. Just give them an extra second of thought if I can. So that was definitely an interesting little bit of a task for me to get through.
Yeah, that's what I think for my team. What's really interesting is we have English, Swedish, Finnish, and then Ukrainian, all like being thrown around. A little bit of Bosnian, so it's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm impressed with what you said is like you hear the word in Spanish and then you have to associate it to the English word, and yet they're able to like hear one language and communicate in another language and think of each one in it.
Yeah. It's incredibly difficult, but that's one of the great parts about living overseas is that's another perspective. That's another, part of it that you're going to get better because of,
Absolutely. Here's a question for you. I have a 16-year-old keeper who's starting the very stressful recruiting process. During these strange times, it's difficult. What are your thoughts on going to play in Europe versus college?
I think that is a very situation by situation, individual thing. I don't think there's one answer for that where, based on this, and this, he or she should go to college or go to Europe. I think it's very important who this person is. It's very important what they want, what they're trying to get out of the game. I think in general, you need to find a certain level of adversity that they can deal with, but at the same time, one that they can still be successful with through perseverance. So, for some people, maybe that's going to be going to Europe. Maybe they're ready to go to Europe. Is for 16 years old, is the educational component still there? We just talked about how difficult it is as a professional athlete psychologically when your identity gets hit. And, soccer's not going to last forever. So who are you when that day comes? I think making sure that continuing the education process, whether it's in college or in Europe, is very important. And that, in the same token, wherever they do go, are there games for them to get, right? Because especially as a goalkeeper, you need to be getting games consistently to kind of, be at your best and start to grow. And, that's not to say that you need to be the starter always, because sometimes it's important to be the two. But what I would say is you need to experience adversity, find the right level of adversity based on the person, and do your research about where you're going. I wouldn't just go to any club in Finland. I'd probably go to Matt's club, if I had a decision. If I was you, I would say, who are the coaches? Who am I putting who is going to be mentoring my child during these very formative years? What kind of environment am I putting them in? These are all things that you need to be considering when you're going through this process. What I would say, like I said before, is let go of perfectionism. Welcome the adversity, because whether you go to college or overseas, you're going to experience adversity, and who are you when that day comes? So a lot of things to break down there, but I would ask the people closest to you, the coaches closest to you, what their opinion on whether they go to college or overseas to Europe, for sure.
Yeah, and my 2 cents, I don't know if they care or not, but I'll give it anyway. It is player, every player is different in those situations, but I would say be very careful with the Europe. There's a lot of people that will tell you things and promise you things, and seems to be it's not as maybe regulated as the US with things of players not getting what promised by clubs. So definitely do the research of what club that is and what other players that have gone there they've experienced. But also, as you said, I think the other thing, I go back and forth on it, and some because I think for some Europe is the right choice, but as you said too, like there's a lot of life after football, as well as you don't know with injuries and that type of thing too. And so although college can sometimes hurt soccer development in the short term, it also then gives security in other ways long term. So it's definitely a decision to not make lightly.
Yeah, and what I would say to that is, maybe it, you can justify that it hurts soccer long term, but I would also say there's an incredible amount of psychological growth that you go through being away at college, where I needed that. A lot of people need that to grow, and being 16, 17 years old, hypothetically at a lower division club in Europe, injured in a different time zone than your family, very difficult and lonely place to be. You know? So I think those are, like I said, and you reiterated, there's a lot of variables to it, and it's not to be taken lightly. That's
I like what John Hollinger said there too, like experiencing it, for a couple weeks in the summer. That's good too, because it is just very different to live in Europe. And now obviously I've lived here for 5 years, so it's a little different, but everything is different when you go to Europe. And at 18 years old, that's a difficult thing, or 16 to deal with, just nothing is familiar. The outlets are different. The keys are different. The light switches are different. It mentally just gets on you, like everything, and let alone the sport. And then, it's just a different environment too when you play in Europe, and it can be more cutthroat. So I do like that suggestion of experiencing it.
Yes.
And getting to see it.
Really related back to your day in the life video when you were in the grocery store, when you're like, I don't know what this label says, but we're going to give it a go. Like, I can't tell you how many times I was trying to buy yogurt and I bought cream cheese. Like, there's just like, there's things you don't think about. And like, when you said the outlets, I was like, I got over to that hotel room in England and I was like, well, I'm pissed. I can't charge my phone. Like, I wish somebody told me about this. But yeah, there's so many little things that you don't really realize until you go over there, which is one of the reasons why it's great to go over there. But you have to figure out, you know, the certain level of adversity that's right for the individual for them to grow without being, you know, discouraged, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Have you thought anymore, where do you want your career to go? I mean, obviously everyone would want to be at the top playing for Everton,
Yeah.
or something, but you know, what are you hoping to achieve in your career? What do you want out of it?
Well, so DC, Israel, Eric, very focused on, you know, the playing aspect of, you know, I want to, you know, I'm only focused on being successful on the field. First and foremost, I want to be happy. You know, that's number one. I need to feel happy, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. Obviously, I want to play at the highest level that I possibly can. And, you know, who knows what that looks like. Something I've been working on with my goalkeeper coach is like, there's no purpose, there's no rationale in putting a ceiling on what that is. You know, there's so many stories of guys that, you know, they get a move here, they have a good run of games, and then, you know, how is that guy at that club?
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think it makes sense to put a ceiling on wherever it is. And I would say that's the same thing I would say in terms of coaching. You know, I want to be happy. I want to feel successful based on what my definition of success is. I want to be financially stable and grow financially at the same time. I think I can do more. I can give more to the world if I'm stable. You know, in terms of playing, like I said, I want to continue to get better. I want to continue to develop until the day that I decide I'm not developing anymore, or the day that I feel that I'm not developing anymore. You know, I want to be continuing up until, you know, 35, 36-year-old Eric. I want to continue to get better, get smarter, be more efficient with whatever it is that I do. I don't know what level that's going to bring me to, you know, and I can only hope that those qualities, the work ethic, it will bring me to the place where, you know, I'm supposed to be for whatever time period that is. In terms of coaching, I want to coach at the highest level again. I think that, you know, there's coaches out there. There's so many good coaches out there. There's so many good resources out there. I would be very wary to put a ceiling on my head coaching wise as well. I just, from interacting and the growth I've had of really committing myself to learning about the game in a coaching aspect for the past 2-ish years, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and I like that. I think those are better focused goals than just saying this is the team I want to coach for, because maybe you make that, but are you actually the coach you want to be? Are you teaching your players what you want to be? Are you the player you want to be? I think those type of goals are short-lived happiness and don't really make an impact on your life or other people's lives either.
I think for the guys that have been around long enough and played long enough, you know, I'm not naive to the fact that, you know, I could say I want to be in the MLS by this date or in the Israeli Premier League by this date. I have no idea what the next 6 months are going to look like. I have no idea what the next year is going to look like. All I can do is try to be the best version of myself every single day that comes, you know, and then let the chips where they fall, wherever they fall, you know, with my best foot forward.
Yeah,
but
100%.
You know, so I'd rather make goals and make statements about, you know, the person I want to embody and the character traits that I want to put out, you know?
Yeah, 100% agree with that. 100%. Well, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I'm excited for you guys to hopefully figure out what needs to be done for you guys to be able to compete this year and have a season instead of one game, quarantine 2 weeks.
Yes, that would
maybe
not be...
get back to Canada, maybe not. I hope that's figured out so that you guys can get back to playing, and I hope you have a successful season. So I appreciate you sharing everything. I thought it was very, very insightful.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for taking the time to have me on. It was great chatting with you, and good luck in Finland as well. Enjoy it over there. It looks great. Looking forward to following these as well.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
All right, man. Yeah, I'll talk to you. See ya.
All right, bye.